How did you meet Tom Zenk?
Okay, Tom, I met Tom first time, in Minneapolis, and I remember him telling me that, at the gym that I used to work out at, he used to work out there, and I remember him telling me that, when I would leave, he would try the same weights that I used to handle, and he was like, really watching me, and then I heard of him. In fact, Nick Bockwinkel was the first guy that told me about it. He said, hey, do you know this guy Tom Zenk? I said, it reminds me of a young Rick Martel. He goes, oh man, he's got the same type of moves. Oh yeah. Well, then I saw him in Winnipeg the first night. I said, yeah, damn, it's maybe something we could do. And I remember Vern wanted to sign him to a contract. It was ridiculous. The contract would tie him up for years, and nothing. So I said, look, don't sign that contract. I'll send you to Portland. I knew Don Owens. I sent him to Portland, and he went there. And then when I bought into the promotion in Montreal, I got Tom to come to Montreal, and then I took care of him. And then I remember I booked him to Japan, and these guys in Japan, I've never seen them, and that was my first tour since I had dropped the strap, since I lost the title. So they wanted me in the worst way. So when I suggested Tom and at that salary, man, no way, it's his first tour. No way he can come from that much, And I said, look, either you give him that or I'm not going, So they said, okay, So they brought him there, and then sure, it turned out to be a good thing because when they saw us, man, they really clicked, And then Tom, when I first made the deal, with Vince, brought Tom here, man, the Can-Am connection just clicked. I mean, the thing clicked really good.
Why didn't it work out with the two of you?
Okay, it's in a way, it may be my fault, but I didn't expect it to be this way because of a thing that happened to me years ago. In 1975, in fact, I went to Georgia, and the first big show in the South at the Omni, Jim Barnett was the promoter, It was the first time they drew $71,000 in 1975. So, so to this day, it's a lot of money, The Omni, was a new building. It was like the first big show. Anyway, that night I was in a tag team match. We had the tag match, me and Mr. Wrestling 2, and we worked against Bob Orton and Dick Slater. We're in the championship match. So I remember that week everybody was going, hey, we should make so much. And, Rick, you're in the tag match, you're in the title match, you should make this. And everybody was talking. I'm like 20 years old. I'm listening. Everybody, if I don't get so much out of them, fuck you, I'm going to leave and this. Everybody was like, I'm like, oh man. Well, if I don't get this, I'm going to go and tell them. We should all go and tell them, that we're not happy with it. So finally I go to the office, pick up my check, and man, it's not half of what I expected, So I go and, done me, I'm going to do what we all said we're going to do, I mean, I wasn't aware of the bullshit that was going on, So I go ahead and say, so on my bond, what can I do for you? I said, well, Mr. Barnett, says, you always told me if I was unhappy to come in and talk to you. Well, I'm unhappy about my payoff. Oh yeah, my bond, So he comes in, I sit down, he brings in his booker, Tom Ernesto at the time, and his secretary. He says, how much were you making in Florida? I says, well, 300 a week, I says, well, 300 a week, He says, you tell the secretary, kept telling me it was this young man's average since been here, so they had made like twice, 600. So, you're making twice as much as you were making in Florida, and you're still unhappy. And right there and then, I knew I was fucked, He says, oh my God. He says, well, you have to make a lesson out of you, So he fired me. That was the only time in the business I ever been fired. It was right there. And I learned a hell of a lesson. I says, never again am I going to discuss my money to anybody. Whatever I make, if I'm happy with it, that's all that matters. If I'm unhappy with it, I'm going to go and talk to the man who matters. I'm not going to talk to the boys about my payoff. I'm going to go and see the promoter, So that was it. So from then on, everybody would ask, "Hey, Rick, how much?" Oh, well, I'm happy with what I make. That's it. I don't want to know what you make. I don't want. That's it. So with Tom, I guess out of the habit of doing that, I never discussed the money with him. But Vince never paid one guy more than the other. That was his thing. Tag team, he always paid the same. But for some reason, Tom got really big head, and he figured because I guess I didn't talk money with him that maybe I was making more than him. But he never said, "Rick, how come you're not telling me?" or whatever, I just didn't talk about it. And I guess I expected, pretty soon. I thought he was making like $50 a night in Portland, before I took him from Portland. And now we're just coming in the territory, and we're making $3,000 a week, and we're just coming in. Things are just starting for us. Imagine, with the straps and the merchandising and all that. Christ, we're going to make a fortune, So I'm thinking this guy's going to pump me up, the young guy's going to. But it was the other way around. It was me that had to say, listen, Tom, hey, look, we're doing this. We're going to get this strap and this and that. Oh, we're going to be, oh, man, we're the best team here. We should do this. And, he's going like, I couldn't believe the attitude, Here, I'm the old timer, trying to pump him up, and so finally, and another story. Finally, he was trying to buy this house, but he had no background, no financial history, so the bank wouldn't lend him the money. So he was turned down like 2-3 times. So finally, he said, "Oh, Rick, this and that. I can, what?" I said, "Look, I'll help you out." I went in the shower in Hartford, Connecticut, and I remember that I went to see Hulk. I said, "Look, Holster, you got to help me out. My partner's trying to, is there something we can do?" Hulk says, "Okay." He said, I'll help out. He went to see Vince and asked Vince to help the situation out. Vince put his wife, Linda, on it. Linda called the bank, wrote a letter to the bank. I mean, they could have let him, she said, he's a big part of this thing here. I mean, she sent merchandise to all the, employees in the bank. Unreal. Right away, he got his mortgage, all things like that I did to him, So I myself, even if I was making more than him, here's me that I took him from nothing to this. He should have been happy for me if that wasn't the situation. But if that would have been the situation, so hey, Rick deserves more money. Oh Christ! And I was the guy with all the ideas that invented Can-Am Connection. That was my idea. Everything was so. I brought him to this asshole. I couldn't believe it. One night they started this rule. Saying that the guys, there was no jeans. Allowed. A dress code.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So the second night of dress code, I pick him up, on the way to the we're in Boston and we're working in, I think, Worcester. So I pick him up and he's got jeans on. I said, "Thomas, what are you doing?" These fucking assholes dress code are going to tell us how to dress now. I'm going, oh, Christ. He's like, this guy's like a diva. I'm going, oh my God, So I said, "Tom, we're going to get some heat over this, Fuck, they got plans for us, and if you're going to be hard-headed now, fuck this, jeopardize our deal, So, fuck, damn, this and that. So sure enough, we go to the building, and, so that makes a big thing. They come and see me and say, "Rick, listen, this is about, you have to do something about this. You can't let that go, because the other guy's going to say why. So you got to have to talk to this guy, and straighten him out, So when we got back in the car, man, that was hot because now this guy was short in my pocket too, and I was, and for no reason at all. On the contrary, the world was going to be handed to us, and this fucking asshole is thinking about jeans, what an idiot, So I told him, he says, yeah, man. I said, "Look, we're the hottest thing here, and this and that, and he's talking like that. I said, imagine. So I said, Tom, and that's the first time I ever talked to him this way, and I think that's what fucking hit him. So, the problem here is your fucking attitude. Who the f do you think you are? You're a fucking, beginner here. Your work is fucking half-ass, and, you just be thankful that you're in this fucking situation. It says, now you think you're fucking God's gift to wrestling now, I said, listen, man, train your fucking act out now, realize what you got. And then from then on, we didn't speak a word, the rest of the trip. So the next day, we were supposed to do TV, and I got this memo, from him, saying, Rick, thanks for everything, but it's finished, and he left. And that was the end of it. So now they can't believe Vince can't believe it. And Vince really loved the idea of the Can-Am. He was really in love with the gimmick and the whole thing, the look, that. So I asked him, I said, look, maybe, the pressure was too much for him. I says, why don't you let me go talk with him and maybe talk it over? So Vince, man, took flew me from Boston to Minneapolis to meet with him. Jack Lenza met me, and we both went to his house. So I remember, his nose up in the air, I says, Tom, I says, look what you're doing. I says, look, finally, we argued about that. Finally, I said, okay, now, for whatever reason you have, but you can't do business like that. You can't just leave like that. Think of what Vince did for you. Think of what I did for you. Now you're letting us hang dry. I mean, you have to come back at least. Let's make a story out of it, where the demolition hurt you and you carried on a stretcher, and I got a story to go on. They hurt my partner. Now you're just laying cold, and that's it. I says, just let's do that. Fine, this, I said, look, if you want to, you can stay at the hotel. When it's time for the angle, I'll just go get you at the hotel, come in, do the angle, and go right away, leave right away. Nobody's you'll maybe be 40 minutes in the building. That's it. No, fuck them, fuck these assholes. I got a college education. So he thought, they were going to knock it. Everybody was going to come and, he thought he was like, but he found out soon enough that, and then came Tito. Then, they said, well, we're going to team up, then they mentioned Tito. And then when Tito came, oh man, I was like, because Tito's attitude, compared to this other asshole, Tito was like, oh man, what a dream, to work together. Tito was like, no ego whatsoever. We're in the ring, and Tito and I was like, hey, we tell the heels, whatever's there. I mean, if it's for him to sell, it's not like, oh, I sold out or whatever. We were there just for the match. I mean, there was no ego involved, and Tito and I were just like that.
Did Vince hold it against you that the thing didn't work out with Zenk?
Oh, no. He knew that it wasn't my fault. I mean, Zenk, he knew Zenk. But in fact, one night Zenk came to the matches. Tony told me that. I wasn't there. A few years after that happened. And Zenk was there, and he had him thrown out. He knew that what happened was totally Zenk's...
Have you talked to Zenk since then?
He tried to make contact with me through a couple of guys, and says, hey, I remember some guys that would come to TV and do jobs, and they used to go WCW, and then they'd say, oh, I talked to Tom, well, yeah, so what, say, oh, he said to say hello, and I don't give a shit, So, and then some girl, he got in touch with a girl in Chicago, and she used to give right to the guys and said, look, Tom, we'd like to talk with you. And I said, I don't ever want to talk to this asshole again.